Welcome to Delaware, North America's LinkedIn Live on Breaking the Disconnect Loop with Proactive Prepay Programs. My name is Maureen Boland. I'm the Chief Revenue Officer for Delaware, and I'll be hosting this live stream. Thank you to those who are joining us live today. This webinar will be immediately available as a replay after the live stream. We want you to feel free to comment below in the chat. Please introduce yourselves. Let us know where you're tuning in from and network with other professionals who are also on this chat. I'm personally very excited about the topic of prepayment because it offers so much for our utility customers, namely choice. The choice to manage and monitor consumption and pay for a commodity ahead of its usage or just in time, and it takes the security deposit off the table, leaving customer money in the community. Valerie, Corey, and Ludwig and I ran this session at SAP. Welcome to Delaware, North America's LinkedIn Live on Breaking the Disconnect Loop with Proactive Prepay Programs. My name is Maureen Boland, the Chief Revenue Officer for Delaware, and I'll be hosting this live stream. Thank you for those of us who are joining us live. This webinar will be immediately available as a replay after the live stream. And feel free to comment below in the chat. Please introduce yourselves, let us know where you're tuning in from, and network with other professionals who are joining us today. I'm personally very excited about the topic of prepayment because it offers so much for our utility customers, namely choice. The choice to manage and monitor consumption and pay for a commodity ahead of usage or just in time, and it takes the security deposit off the table, leaving customer money in the community. Valerie, Corey, Ludwig, and I ran this session at SAP for Utilities in Denver last month. We ran out of time to answer all the questions that were coming in, so we thought it would be fun to do this in a LinkedIn Live format and involve more of you. Let me share a bit about myself. I started as an engineer in the utility industry 33 years ago, almost 34, and that's certainly dating myself. I found my way to SAP, where I helped lead the industry practice at SAP. I had the opportunity to work for a utility, Southern California Edison, where I was an IT director and later a line of business leader. I joined Delaware last year as Delaware's CRO and also as the industry practice lead for energy and utilities. I'd also like to take a moment to familiarize you with Delaware. Delaware is a 23-year-old company formed by people who have been working in the industries that we serve and in the SAP space for decades. 5,200 SAP professionals with several global delivery centers. We support most of SAP's industries, but here in North America, we focus on aerospace and defense, discrete manufacturing, mill products, and energy and utilities. We pride ourselves on keeping pace with SAP, and with our long-term partnership with SAP, we are the only one of our kind in the partner ecosystem, where we are one of 11 platinum partners and one of 14 RISE validated partners. We have delivered 449 S/4HANA transformation programs to date, and we bring a focus on customer success and process center of excellence to all that we do. Okay, let's get to know a bit about our panelists. Panelists, please share your background in the utilities industry, describe your current role, and answer the question, what excites me personally about prepay? Valerie, we're going to kick off with you.
Hi, everyone. I'm Valerie Pomeranke, and I work at Salt River Project, and we are a utility, primarily electric, although we do provide some agricultural water, and we have about a little over 1 million customers on the electric side. So we've been offering prepay. So I've been there, for 30 years now, currently the Director of Customer Modernization. And we've offered prepay as long as I've been at SRP. So obviously it started out very small as a proof of concept, but today we have 155,000 customers, which is about 15% of our residential customer base that is currently on our prepay program. So I love prepay because Maureen mentioned it earlier, but it provides options. options for our customers. It provides options for our employees. There's a lot of benefits to offering prepay. Debt reduction is another one, and I know we'll talk a little bit more about some of that later on. But again, prepay is a great program, again, and options for our customers that SRP has been supporting, growing, I would say changing and evolving over the last 30 years.
It's outstanding. 15% is just outstanding. Love that. All right. Thank you, Valerie. Corey Reitz, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself? And again, the same question. What excites you personally about prepay?
Sure. I'm Corey Ritz. I'm based in Houston, Texas. I am an industry director for SAP in the industry business unit for utilities. I've been with SAP for 13 years now, and I'm also a solution manager for prepayment. I love prepayment just because it gives the customers and the utilities options for a customer program that allows the customer to pay what they want when they want, and also helps utilities minimize revenue losses and incurred bad debts. So it gives customers and the utility themselves plenty of options on how they can actually proceed with, good, valuable customer programs.
Awesome, Corey. Thank you. All right. And last but not least, Mr. Ludwig Stain from Delaware. Ludwig, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and what makes you excited about prepay?
Hi, thanks, Maureen. My name is Ludwig Stain. I've been deploying SAP in utilities since 1997 and industry solution for utilities since 98. But the first prepay program I got involved in was a pilot program we did for City of Tacoma back in 2001. And that was really focused on servicing customers that kind of got stuck in the disconnect loop. Subsequently to that, I was the solution architect at TXU 2010 when we developed the prepay framework. And currently I'm involved in another deployment within the Texas deregulated market for prepay. I think the exciting thing about prepay is it gives the customers options, even for those that do not have credit distress or distress on their account servicing to pay. I think for a lot of us, the ability to prepay for a service and consumers we want is something that we kind of expect today. And the framework that SAP now has provides that. And you also have the ability to have various different offerings within that framework as a single utility. And that's really what makes it exciting, I think.
Awesome. I'm glad you're excited, Ludwig. All right, we're going to get right into the Q&A. Now, I've prepared some questions for our panelists, but I want to encourage all you listeners to think about the questions you'd like to ask our panelists. And if you're feeling bold, type it into the chat. Type your questions into the chat, and we'll take them a little bit later in the program or as we can. And I'm going to kick off with Valerie with the Salt River Project. Valerie, you work for a utility that, as you just mentioned, has offered prepay for quite some time. You talked about how long it's been in place. How does offering a prepay program benefit SRP?
So from SRP's perspective, when we do our surveys, our customer satisfaction surveys on a quarterly, regular basis, we find that our prepay customers are actually more satisfied than all of our other customers. So again, it's a very satisfying program for our customers. We would say that because of the fact that our customers actually work with us a lot more often when you're on prepay, a lot of times they have more interaction with Salt River Project as they make payments on a more regular basis. They do have more interaction with our team members. And again, that helps to increase customer satisfaction. One of the things that creates customer satisfaction as well is, again, we talked about it earlier, it's just the options that it provides for a customer who's having problems paying. If you need to pay a deposit, when you are in prepay, your deposit, a small deposit instead of the regular deposit, actually goes into your pay down account. So that means you need $0 to start service with SRP. If you've been disconnected for non-payment, rather than having to pay some past due balance, you now don't have to pay that past due balance. We can move it directly into your pay down balance. And again, you pay it off over time. So for a customer who has been disconnected and needs to pay, a lot of times it can be very difficult to come up with that past due balance. With our Empower or prepay program, you don't have to come up with that balance. It goes directly into your pay down. You pay it off over time. Our normal pay down balance is 35% of every purchase is what goes towards your pay down balance. So you make a purchase of $10, $3.50 is going to go pay off that pay down balance. The other $7.50 is going to get loaded onto your ledger or to your meter, so that that's what you're actually using for energy. So again, it makes it really easy for our customers, and which is what makes it's a satisfying program. The other thing for the utility that's helpful is the fact that, again, it helps with debt reduction. I just talked about the fact that customers that have debt that's owed to SRP, they're able to pay that off over time. They don't have to come up with that balance, where a lot of times people end up playing the name game where they're changing customers. Oh, I'm going to turn off and my friend's going to turn on, or someone else. We don't have that happening as much. We still have it, but we don't have it as much because customers are, again, able to pay that off over time, which makes it a lot easier. The other thing about our program that as a utility we love, I mentioned options. Well, when our representatives are on the phone talking to customers and they're talking about having a hard time paying, they have an option rather than just saying, I need you to pay your entire past due balance. We actually have a real option for customers that they can use, and that makes employees feel good. When you listen to our employees talk about Empower, and I apologize, I'm using that word interchangeably. Our prepay program is called Empower. So again, those mean the same thing in our world. Empower or prepay, our customers generally know it as Empower. And so when a customer calls in and an employee can offer that option to someone, you don't have to pay anything down right now. We can roll it into your balance, and you can pay it off over time. Very, very satisfying conversation. So it helps our employees actually to feel much better about what they need to do and about that call that might have been a difficult call to begin with.
Yeah, really helps them help their customers. It's just got to feel good. So I think you're hinting at this with the most satisfied with this particular program, with the Empower program at SRP. But what do your customers actually say about this program?
Well, we've listened to a couple of times, and we'll have customers that will do a focus group with them. And when you listen to them talk about it, they love Empower. They love the control that they have with Empower. So some of the benefits for their customers that you'll hear about, right? There's no late payment fees because it's a pay-as-you-go program. So no late payment fees, no disconnection fees. There's a lower deposit that's paid off over time. We also have no monthly bill. So again, one of the big benefits of that is you understand how much energy you're using as you go. So you're not all of a sudden have this giant bill at the end of the month. And boy, in Arizona during the hot summers, some of those bills can be large. You're using a lot of air conditioning, maybe more than you realize. And maybe if you saw earlier how much you were using and were paying attention to it because you're paying more regularly, you might make different decisions about how you're using energy in your home. And so again, I think it provides that visibility that customers don't always see when they just get their monthly bill and are surprised by that. So again, it reduces surprises. A lot of times it'll also reduce usage because you're keeping track of your energy consumption. And with our prepay program, we actually have hourly visibility. So we've recently upgraded our program. Prior, it was actually real time because the ledger lived in the meter. Now the ledger is centralized, but we still provide hourly updates to how much energy you're using and also then what your balance is. So again, how many more days worth of power do you have on your ledger? Customers can enroll in low balance notifications. And again, ultimately, it's just that they have more control.
It's comfort. It's a peace of mind thing because they can see exactly what's happening. And like you said, no surprises, the no fees thing. I think I'm going to move to Arizona, Valerie. Make room for me. All right, Corey, as the guy who stands up for prepay at SAP, let's learn a bit more about SAP's prepay customers. Who are SAP's prepay customers globally?
So globally, we have a lot of customers. We have really big customer bases in Asia and Africa currently. Some of those are the city of Shaswani. They just went live and they're having great results with customer satisfaction and the ability to recover bad debt. TXU Energy here in Texas, Johannesburg. We have Contact Energy in Australia and New Zealand. Duke Energy over here as well are just a few. So we have a lot of really big utilities all over the world that are using prepay. But we're seeing a lot more traction now in Africa and Asia. And as I assume, as it gets more and more popular around the world, we'll see it pick up more steam here in the United States as well.
Yeah, that's exciting. And Valerie just described benefits associated with prepay from SRP's perspective, both from the utility and the CSR perspective, the agents who are serving their customers. What do SAP's other customers tell you about their prepay programs? What do they like?
They love the option to offer customers another program to, help bridge the gap between disconnecting them all the time and having to send somebody back out to reconnect them. So the customers and the utilities themselves are loving the fact that they can help recover that debt. They don't have to have a secure deposit for some of these customers that are within SAP and S4. So there's no need to have another system to actually run that. So everything can be done right there. The same thing with the contracts and everything there. And also with the process monitoring for prepayment customers, the way that we can send messages and event triggers, help, and keep the customer informed and aware of how much consumption they're using, how much money they have left in their balance. Also provides them the ability to have an overdraft amount. So if they do go over, we don't disconnect them right away overnight or anything like that, but just during the regular business hours. So a lot of the utilities are loving that fact that it helps save them money and helps them recover their bad debt. And customers love it because they can, have a good visualization into what they're using, how much, it's costing them per day, and they can make adjustments based on their lifestyles as well.
Yeah. So it sounds very similar to the SRP story. Very, very similar. What does SAP offer in terms of prepay capabilities? Describe, how do you buy it from SAP?
So you were able to get this add-on and license that product for prepayment, and it all runs through S4 now. So now that is retrofitted to S4, starting with 2025 FPSO release, you can get it as an add-on, but you don't have to actually implement a new add-on. It's already included on this for utilities. So now you just are licensing that product, and it's already fully integrated, and everything's there for you. So master data is the same, and everything runs through our prepaid document. And the prepaid document gives you the ability to see all kinds of things into the customer's usage, the contract, what the prepaid balance is, their moratorium calendar, when they can and cannot be shut off, the thresholds of prepayment account balance for notifications, the way their disconnect status is. So we offer the ability to see everything into the customer and how they are actually using their energy, what they have, also their debt recovery. If they do have a past debt, instead of doing an installment plan or budget billing plan, you can associate certain percentage or dollar amount of each of the prepaid money that they are paying you in advance to the bad debt, and also allow them to stay on with power without having them to make up that previous balance. So SAP gives you a wide variety of options here, and also with all SAP products has the ability to be configured and enhanced to fit your customers' needs. So we provide everything that you would need for prepay.
Awesome. That is great. So we're going to transition over to Ludwig, who is a guy who's had the opportunity to implement prepay at least once a decade over the past several, most recently for a Texas utility in both regulated and deregulated markets. So Ludwig, give us a sense of what it takes to deploy the prepay solution in the markets that you've worked in.
I think one of the big differences between regulated versus deregulated markets are where vertically integrated utilities offer the service. They're in control of the whole environment, from the meter reads all the way through to how they get into the system. In the deregulated environments, we tend to lag. If we look at the Texas market, for instance, we lag about 24 hours from the infill reads being obtained by the TDSPs to the retailers actually being able to get their hands on that. So there's a lag in that process. Also, if we look at the different markets where we operate, depending on how the PUC regulations are written for those specific markets, on certain minimum requirements that you have to maintain when you deal with prepaid customers. In Texas, for instance, it's very detailed in the regulations as to how the program should operate. what kind of offerings you should offer the customer when you do have cases where, for instance, you have weather moratoriums issued where you cannot disconnect due to either excessive heat or excessive cold situations, and how you have to deal with that debt that's accrued during that period, because the customer can conceivably have an energy spike or a consumption spike during that period, and giving them a way to continue with service post that through using like the deferred payment plans that Corey has mentioned. The prepay framework that SAP provides is fairly flexible. It's really a shadow accounting system that sits on top of the standard ISU system. We still deal with the normal cycles, but the prepay object gives us additional mechanisms. So for debt recovery or deferred payment plans, for instance, within the SAP framework, you can either set it up so that when a customer purchases credit for their account, that a percentage of that service is past debt, or the other way that the system can be set up that a certain debt amount is rolled over into a specific period and it wears down over a number of days. The system also allows us to determine the interval length for prepay calculations. It can go from daily to 7 days or 3 days, whatever. It's fairly flexible in that configuration perspective. And then obviously the communications. Prepay in general is a profuse communicator. There's minimum communications that's required, that's regulated, where the customer has to be notified when they reach a threshold as far as remaining consumption left on their account, and then also notifying them as they come up to that disconnect state. The one thing with prepayment, I would say, within the deregulated environments where the customers can shop around is it's kind of like you got to be careful that you don't end up like a burner phone situation where people shop around with fraudulently obtained credit cards. So there's some additional checks that has to be done up front. It has to be fairly robust in the sign-up process. And I think that's pretty much from that perspective, it's pretty much cyclical as far as the rest of the transactional nature is concerned within that.
Okay. You mentioned a few challenges here that you would have to face as you're trying to adapt the toolkit that SAP gives you, the objects that SAP gives you to work with. You mentioned moratorium. What are some of the other things that you've encountered as challenges that you've had to overcome when you're implementing?
So it's the big thing is for the regulations. So typically a customer is not required to have a security deposit with prepayment. They have to have a minimum deposit on their account in order to establish service. And there's a threshold amount for them to reconnect. So you don't want to flip a customer on and off, and every time it just comes back and give you a couple of dollars. So typically in the design process, we would look at what are those reconnection thresholds to establish for the customer to get in. And then also if there's additional fees, whether or not you want to pull those fees from the daily balance, or whether or not you need to roll them into deferred payment plans in order to smooth that out and kind of give the customer consistent service as he moves down. From a channels perspective, typically you would see with prepaid customers, for Texas specifically, it's regulated. You need to have a smartphone if you want to enroll. And then from the payment channels, the utilities tend to limit which channels customers would access through. So typically you would see stuff like credit cards and maybe payment agencies that will take payments on your behalf, because it's very proactive. So you put it in the customer's control. You profusely communicate with the customer. They know where they're at really almost on a daily basis. They have the ability to log in and see what's going on their accounts. Whereas on a post-pay scenario, it's very reactive. The customer's waiting for their bill to show up. Post-pay customers can adjust their behavior, their consumption behavior, in order to reduce their consumption if it comes down to it, if they're really in that kind of scenario. So from a communications perspective and making sure that you align with the regulations, those are really the big things. I think the only other thing I would say is for entities where it's offered, I think one of the challenges is managing perceptions when offering a prepay program. If you only offer it to the customers that are in credit distress, it could be perceived as discriminatory. So it's better to open it up for everybody and make it available for everybody if you want to offer a program like that.
Yeah, that's good advice from a social equality point of view. You hear you say proactive. I hear Valerie talking about choice and changing behaviors around usage. You talk about it being a profuse communicator. I think the word you used in the last panel was ferocious communicator. These are all good things typically. So if we do take a an equitable approach, which is to offer it to everybody. What a powerful thing to be able to do as a utility. Thank you, Ludwig. Let's move to Valerie.
Mhm.
Salt River Project is currently underway with its customer modernization effort, a migration from a mainframe solution that's fit for purpose that grew up around Empower, your prepayment program, embeds it in it actually, and you're taking a different approach in your solutioning approach. Can you please take a moment and describe for the audience what's entailed in this overarching solution?
Sure. So our customer modernization program is actually replacing our current CIS. Again, Maureen mentioned our mainframe homegrown CIS. It's also replacing our self-service portal and our apps. So one part of a prepay program is the importance, I think, of having an app. That is where the majority of our customers make their payments, is through the app. That's where they have easy visibility to what their balance is, how much energy they're using. So that is a big part of our program. So you can see on this slide here how we have a variety of payment channels that a customer can use to make payments. And so part of that, again, is our app solution that we are changing as a result of our program. A lot of these we're also obviously changing out Sales and Service Cloud for SAP. That is a new solution as well, and S4HANA. So those are our payment channels that can all get into where we actually go to Paygo, which is our prepay solution. I mentioned earlier, that's actually a new solution for us. We implemented that about a year ago. So Paygo is really where our ledger lives for our prepay payments and usage. They also send over the notification information that's required to send notifications. As we talked about before, we constantly communicate with our customers, and so notifications is a big piece of that. And so that information comes from Paygo, and then we send it out today through our self-service channel. And then that information and then all of that's, the meter is obviously a big piece of that holds the usage in there as well. So this is a big change for SRP. Again, Paygo holds part of it, but we also have a lot of our prepay solution currently today in our CIS, and that'll move to SAP.
Yeah, it's exciting. It moves to SAP, and you mentioned Service Cloud version 2. And you mentioned your customer self-service application that we're moving toward, away from your the app that SRP managed to maintain, to SEW's application, which, as you mentioned, will also include prepayment functionality. So it's pretty exciting evolution to the whole SAP footprint. And it's got a name. What's its name? The new solution.
New solution. Pegasus is our new solution. So Pega CIS is what we're calling kind of the all-encompassing of this solution is called Pegasus for SRP, because again, we have a lot of SAP products, and so it was a way to differentiate that we're talking about our customer solutions here.
Awesome. Okay, let's move on to Corey, and then audience, I'm going to ping you again. If you've got some questions for our panelists, please start typing those in. We'd very much like to take some of your questions. Corey, last question before we move to the audience. What's on SAP's roadmap for prepay? You hinted at it in terms of, now it's going to be embedded in S4HANA, but are there other things that are coming that would enable, folks to take advantage of it and reduce those customizations along the way?
So as of right now, the last release for S4HANA 2025 FPSO, the prepayment for utilities, is now available on S4 utilities. So it's no longer an add-on. It's there and readily available for customers that want to license it. Now, the way prepayment has been is we need continuous influence from customers. So we need more customers to get on prepay and then let us know how they would like it to evolve and advance. Once we get enough customers to do that, then we will take that back into consideration for future releases and enhancements with prepayment. So we really need a push from prepayment utility customers to help us, evolve the solution into a way that they want to be and where they would like to go in the future for prepayments. At the moment, there is no current plan for Fioreizing prepayment. Once we do get more customers on there, and if that is a bigger push, then there will be embedded analytics and things like that will be created for Fiore with a customer influence request there.
Yeah. And that's really important. What we heard when we were at SAP for Utilities just a month ago is a couple of utilities thinking about taking that plunge, trying to walk in the direction of implementing a prepayment program. And there were a lot of great questions. Valerie, I'm going to ask you to think about those questions while we're waiting for some folks to pop some in the chat. I think you took a couple questions about how to get started. So how would you guide a utility? How would you guide a utility who's just thinking about how to take those first few nascent steps in the direction of prepayment?
Yeah, always difficult because we've had it for over 30 years and it's really kind of, I would say, all we know. I know one of the stories that I have told, because we've had it around so long, we have representatives who've come to work at SRP who, as they're going through basic training class, they will comment, I didn't know there was anything except for prepay. Like, they didn't realize that there was a monthly bill option because they grew up in our service territory only using prepay or Empower. So it's interesting. And a piece of that also is the importance of training your representatives. So we have, I want to say it's about 20 to 25% of our basic training focuses on prepay. So a representative can't offer the program unless they do really understand it and understand how it works, because it is different. It's very different than what we know. Prepay in general is getting more and more common. Starbucks, anybody, a lot of times people will prepay Starbucks and pay that way, but a lot of times even our representatives aren't as familiar. We've realized a long time ago that we have to make sure every single representative who could get a call from a customer is well versed in the program and how it works. So I guess that'd be one thing I would say, the importance of your representatives understanding the program and the benefit for our customers. And the other thing, I know I've heard of a lot of utilities doing that proof of concept to make sure that it actually is going to work for them, that they can understand all of the nuances. Again, our program has evolved so much over time. I think that has helped everybody at SRP to better understand, even our executives. I think that's an important stakeholder in prepay, is understanding and supporting prepay. And again, our executives have been around it for a long time and definitely support it because of the benefit for the customers, but it is important for them to be involved as well.
Yeah. I had the opportunity to listen to some of your calls in your call center last summer, and I believe every single call I heard was about prepay. It happened to be during a moratorium, and there were just many calls about that. And it was very exciting to listen to your CSRs be able to offer that, to offer choice and to offer optionality as associated with that particular program. I think we've all just heard Valerie give her thoughts about how to get started. Let's go with the plan. Step one is plan to offer it to everybody. Step two is, run a POC. And step three is make sure that you've trained everybody in your organization, not just your CSRs, on how to offer it, but also, your executives, because they're going to be out there talking to your customers as well. I do not see any questions in the audience, but is there anything else I'd like to offer just a moment for each of you to take a final thought?
I just wanted to comment real quick, Maureen, on something that Ludwig said, and you also said it about offering it to everybody. I would say over the last probably a few years that I've heard even just people around our office as well as other customers talking about, a lot of them are using prepay as a way to help their family, particularly their kids, their teenagers, understand how much energy actually costs. And so they're using that program, again, as a teaching tool. So again, it isn't just for any one group of customers. There's a lot of benefits. So again, a lot of people we've heard more about that. Roommates, it works really well for, because everybody can have the app and can take turns making payments. You have more flexibility in that. So again, it really is a program that really can and should be offered to anybody.
Yeah. Helping families, and then also helping people learn how to manage their money. I think that was something that Mark Rawson mentioned to us when we were thinking through this, getting ready for this particular panel before SAP for Utilities, teaching people how to manage money. It's such a valuable skill, and what a great way to do it. Okay, guys, we've talked about the proactive nature of a prepay program. We've talked about the fact that it delivers an incredible amount of choice. It comes with no fees. Some of the programs do. It helps to change behaviors around energy usage. It teaches you how to manage money, and it helps your family and community. I don't know why we aren't all looking at it in some form or fashion. I want to thank you all for sharing your experience with this topic today, and thanks to the audience members who were able to listen along today. We hope you found our session valuable. As we wrap up this live stream, we want to play you our Delaware video so you can learn a little bit more about Delaware, and thank you all for joining us today.